Today is the day that we discuss Hunter x Hunter. If you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Hunter x Hunter is back and we've gotten several chapters and I have been enjoying them so much. So I've been treating Hunter x Hunter like I treat One Piece, where I read it week to week, but I discuss it in bulk in groups. So today we're going to be talking about chapters 391 to 396, and then I will come back and discuss the final chapters after we run out of new chapters. And honestly, I'm not entirely sure how many chapters we have left for that, so it'll happen when it happens. I have loved the return of Hunter x Hunter. From the very first chapter, it felt so seamless. It really felt like Togashi has a history of talking about something in his story and then saying, "No, I want to go have a fight between Chrollo and Hisoka. So we're just gonna do that now." Or something where he just completely shifts everything. And I fully expected him to do that. He left off in a I'm building tension kind of place, but not in a thrilling place. And after you've been gone for this amount of time, one would think that you want to come back with a bang. But this chapter was, for all intents and purposes, not thrilling. I mean, it was very good from the intrigue side, but I just appreciate that he made the transition from the last chapter to this one feel so seamless so that it didn't feel like a jarring, oh, that's when Togashi returned. It just felt like, okay, we're continuing the story, which was really exciting for me. But he still found ways to make this chapter very exciting to get back into, like exploring more of Hendrik's powers with his handcuffs that can turn into pigeons, or rather pigeons that can turn into handcuffs, turning the camcorder into a cat, but it still serves its purpose. Continuing to talk about Nen blood and how it functions and how long it takes for it to wear off, just really focused on Nen and on this chess game of a war that we're watching unfold, or rather that we're watching build up. As well as ending the chapter on some action, which was incredible. Seeing this incredibly intense character that just is ready to kill, and then watching Hendrik easily overpower him and kill him in front of a crowd of people was fantastic. It was diving right back into what the story was doing before, but it was also amplifying it and saying, okay, look, things are amping up, things are moving, and this war is escalating. And then you ended on that action, and then the very next chapter, he gets back up and he's like, oh, no, it just, it was a minor scuffle. I'm fine. Which I'm sure was very confusing to the crowd and me, and I would be horrified watching that man drenched in blood, having just been killed in front of me, just get up and be like, I'm okay. And then we get to see Misha, who is someone who has a posthumous Nen ability, a post-mortem Nen ability, and what she does is she just cleans up the messes of her family. She, who also looks very dead, clings to the body of a corpse that her family has handled and has them get up and walk away, and she helps to dispose of them. I mean, this is horror genre stuff. I definitely love it. I love it. I also loved the scene where we found Hisoka. I know there's been tons of theorizing over this hiatus of who's Hisoka impersonating, who's he hiding as, how has he changed his appearance. We need to look at how tall this character is, and that'll help us determine if this is a candidate for who he is. And then we see him, and it's like, I love Togashi's storytelling style because he does not follow what's expected ever. So for instance, we have this iconic, horrifying character that we're all very invested in who is undercover, and he has no problem ending that on an anticlimax. Like, I believe that Togashi has heard some theorizing over these years that he's been on hiatus. I don't believe that he's just never heard any fan discussion about this matter. So he knows, I assume, that the fans have been theorizing and guessing, and instead of saying, oh, okay, let's do something really interesting, instead he's just like, Hisoka's hair is down. But that's Togashi. That's Togashi. He makes his stories, well, I've only read this one story by him. He makes his story feel so real in how he doesn't feel the need to make everything the most thrilling thing or the most satisfying thing. He just makes it whatever feels right to him for the story. And Hisoka having such a nothing disguise was hilarious to me. But also, I loved the reintroduction of him because we have these siblings. I think they're siblings. The blood guy and the punchy girl. There's a lot of names. I'm doing my darndest, but it's not gonna be that great. So we have them going around looking for Hisoka by her punching the truth out of them. And first we establish how it works, reestablish how it works, establish how effective it is. You know, we see her using it on other people and see them immediately buckling under the truth and saying that it's not them. And then she moves on to Hisoka and we see these people instantly succumbing to her nen ability, and then she hits Hisoka and passes out. And I love this little scene because it instantly reestablishes to the reader why Hisoka makes us, I'll just talk for me, makes me tremble every time he's on page. Every time I see him, I feel uneasy as a person because he's around. And it's like we get reintroduced to him on this anticlimax, but then immediately reestablish this man is incredibly strong and terrifying and a force to be reckoned with. And I love it. I love it. I'm so excited to have him back in the story. Speaking of Togashi just doing what he wants with stories, I also really loved the scene with the Phantom Troop and them kind of just strategizing, figuring out what they're gonna do next. And then we have this guy just pop through the wall, pop through the door, antagonize them for not being assertive enough in this war that they're in, and then proposing, let's team up. Let's take out this group of people, then that group of people, and then let's just go ahead and destroy the world. Let's handle it. And then we have Nobunaga, I think is his name. And then we have Nobunaga just step up and kill him. Even admits, I wasn't really paying attention to what you were saying, so sorry about that. But again, it's like you've got this incredible entrance into a scene and he's just snuffed. And this happens all the time in the series where because of the buildup of a character or because of the way they've been reintroduced into the story, it's like, oh, okay, something's about to happen. And then no, they're dead now. I just really love Togashi's his subversion of expectations by just doing whatever he wants, you know? Like, you're really curious about Hisoka? He's just right over there. This guy just popped through the wall? He's dead now. I also really loved the scene with Hendrik and Hisoka when Hisoka asks him, okay, so between me and the spiders, who do you think is gonna win? And Hendrik just to his face saying that his money is on the spiders, or however he worded that. I mean, that's some boldness right there. I would never be able to look Hisoka in the eyes and say, I think you're gonna lose. I think other people are stronger than you. Now with the way Hisoka is, it doesn't surprise me that he took that in good humor. And basically I assume is just gonna be like, let me show you. I mean, he loves that cat and mouse thing. This let's make it so that this is gonna be the most challenging kind of fight that I can have so I can get the most thrill out of almost losing but still overpowering you. You know Hisoka, he's horrifying. But looking him in the eyes and saying, my money's on someone else, I don't know how you could have that boldness. Next up I want to talk about is the portal whenever they try to get a man to come out of the room, but he's trying to get them in the room, which I'm obviously skipping over a lot of the inner dealings, the strategizing, the chess pieces moving on the board, preparing, alliances forming, all that kind of stuff. Skipping over a lot of that because one, I will not learn all these characters' names. I feel like I need to discuss all the tiny little details. But two, I'm basically just trying to hit the big moments that are coming up, really discuss like the really exciting stuff, and then all this little strategizing when it comes to a head, then we'll discuss it further. But it's a lot of characters to keep track of and a lot of internal politicking to keep track of, and I'm enjoying it, but to discuss it, that's not my skill level. So anyway, this room, this fella who's pretending to be terrified, who's clearly trying to get them to cross the threshold of his doorway. And I love how smart Togashi's characters are, because this is something that, I mean, they could have easily been tricked into and it would have been totally believable. I mean, like, he was doing a good job putting on a show of being innocent and acting like nothing's gone. Like, there's nothing to suspect him of, and all he wants is for them to just come on in. Just enter my doorway. Just enter my room. And immediately, as they should be, they're suspicious of anyone and everyone that they interact with on this ship. So they notice something's off. They try to get him to come to them, and because he's so persistent, they are like, okay, well, no. No, we're not coming into your room. There's something sus going on here. So I love him like throwing the knives, trying to test things out that way, and then eventually just throwing a knife into this guy's leg, and even being able to identify that his suffering over just having a knife chucked into your leg was also false. So the guy admits, okay, yeah, sure, it's a lie. This isn't my real body. And then he melts. I mean, he didn't melt. He teleported, I assume. I do find it interesting that one of the fellas mentioned that he, suspects that his ability is similar to the boss's ability, which, is that something that we already knew? I feel like that's not something that I knew. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same thing, but, and I assume they weren't talking about the teleportation because we later established that that is something that's an asset that they're using, that the family is using. So I assume it's the fact that he can create false bodies. I don't know. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about that. That may just may have been something that I've forgotten since I read the beginning of this arc several months ago. But anyway, then we see this kid enter the room shortly thereafter, and he's immediately teleported away. So now it's established that this threshold that the guy wanted them to pass through would remove them, put them in another location. And while Togashi never does the typical story structure, he never tells his stories in the way that you should, the way that one would expect, which makes his stories, in my opinion, feel much more authentic because literally anything could happen because he's not trying to follow typical story structures. With that, he does do an excellent job of constantly establishing a thing and then making that thing pay off. Like the girl who punches, we see her punching, we see how it affects other people, we have an established norm, and then she goes up to Hisoka, the norm is disrupted. This shows us how strong and powerful Hisoka is. Same with this teleportation. We have this whole setup with this room. We see the guy trying to get them to cross the threshold and then disappearing. We see the kid going through the threshold and disappearing. Now we're gonna pay that off by finally finding the entrance to the Ty Lee base, where they meet up. I said Ty Lee because I'm thinking Avatar is on the mind. It's Ty Lee. I'm sorry. So anyway, Hendrik determines where the Ty Lee hideout is, where the entrance for that is, because he watched people go down the hall and then not come out. So that's a pretty good indicator. And I love that as Hendrik figures that out, he sees, okay, this is where they're going to teleport. At the same time, we've got the spiders that are just like, I'm gonna cut through a wall. And so they find the spot, they cut through a wall behind a toilet, and then now they're in the hideout, which has been abandoned. So one is to assume that they realized that they were about to be infiltrated and or about to be found out, and now they've found a new location, or maybe they had two hideouts and they're all in the other spot. I don't know. But what I do love is that Nobunaga notes that the Ty Lee family are similar to the spiders and that losing one of them affects everybody, that it really matters to them. And that triggers, well, and then their discussion following that triggers the flashback. Now this, as much as I've been enjoying just jumping right back into this politic heavy war, this chess game of a war where you don't know who's gonna win, you don't know who's gonna come on top, you don't know who is going to join whose alliance. All of this is interesting and it's a lot, but I'm enjoying it a lot. This flashback, I'm loving, and I've only had 2 chapters of it yet. So we get to go to Meteor City, and we get to see a little bit more of how the spiders lived, how the Phantom Troop began. We get to see them bickering and quabbling and not getting along. We see this place of trash and see how far the trash extends and how high it's piled up. We see a little bit of how they live. And we also see them finding this tape and arguing over it and tricking each other in order to be the one that has possession of it. And so I love seeing these. I love seeing the Phantom Troop as kids. I love seeing them in this more innocent form where it's just, I like that it's not, oh yeah, they've always been kind of rascals. They've always been doing things they shouldn't be doing. No, we got to see them serving people. We got to see them like really trying to bring some spark of joy into this very desolate place that they've been raised. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. The VHS tape is the Cleanup Rangers, which is something that is apparently popular elsewhere, but they've not had access to because Meteor City is, it's the people that are rejected, it's the things that are rejected, it's what's broken and what isn't wanted anymore by the populace, so they don't have access to anything like this. So Chrollo, who is the only one who can speak the language that the Cleanup Rangers is spoken in, chooses to create a dub. He translates it. They get together to create this performance. They put it on this giant projector. They bring all of, I assume, all of Meteor City together, or at least a large portion of it, to let them enjoy this thing, to spread some enjoyment to everybody. I love that Chrollo is instantly wants to share it with other people, and them bonding over being theater kids, even when the tape gets all tangled up and the movie is ruined, and then people are responding with, well, of course it is. Of course the tape is ruined. This is Meteor City. We don't get anything that would function properly. So then the kids just come out and perform it on their own. They step up and they do the dub live, and the tape plays again, but they're doing the performance, and Chrollo's getting so into it. And it's really a gift to this people. And oh man, I loved this scene because we get to see in a very short time, we get to see what kind of disposition Meteor City has, which we already had a little taste of, but we get to see them, how valuable it is to them to have this gift that these kids are giving them. Just a little bit of entertainment, just a little bit of luxury, even a broken down luxury. Giving this to them it meant so much to all these people. And then these kids bond over it. They want to do more of the spiders join up to be a part of it. They form a group of theater kids trying to serve their people. And it's just such a wholesome beginning for them. It's so beautiful to see how they came together, how they bonded, how they became friends and became a group, and to see what they've come from and why this was so valuable to them. I loved it. We also got to see Sheila, who was the person who Kurapika encountered, and she was like their first contact with or information on the world outside, which was, I mean, I'd love to circle back on that. I'd love to get more from her and learn more about her fate and like how we got to where we were when we saw her with Kurapika. Anyway, this chapter ended on a very ominous note. Earlier, again, Togashi, his storytelling style, while he doesn't fit the norms, he is very good at establishing a thing and then coming back and fulfilling it, paying off on it. I keep coming back to that because I think it's important to note that while Togashi doesn't do typical story things, while he is constantly subverting expectations, intentionally making things anticlimactic, shifting away from this is what we've been doing, now all of a sudden we're doing this now, like all these things that make his storytelling style, it could come off sloppy. I think it's also important to note how many things he does on a technically proficient, like he's doing the correct, he's not just throwing something into the story all of a sudden and saying, okay, now we teleport. Okay, now there's kidnappers. Oh, they took the kid. Okay. No, like he establishes stuff before he brings it in. So you can see the intentionality, you can see the planning, I'm like speaking to the choir. If y'all are watching this, you're fans of the series probably. Okay, sorry. Anyway, he had established before, he had shown us these kidnappers before. So now a member of the Spiders says, okay, I'm going to go find some more tapes because we're gonna continue serving our people this way. We're gonna continue bonding this way. We're theater kids. And so she goes out to go find some more tapes and then we see the kidnappers saying, let's steal one more kid for the fun of it. So the implication here, nothing is certain with Togashi, but the implication here is that next chapter, she gets kidnapped, and that is what rocks the Spiders. Obviously, the build-up to this flashback was Nobunaga saying that the Spiders are just like, the Hylians are similar to us in that losing one person affects everybody. And that statement is what led into this flashback. So we're probably about to lose someone of the group immediately after it's been established. She's gonna get kidnapped and it's gonna affect the Spiders. And assumedly in this flashback, we're going to see the beginnings of them going from this wholesome, giving, kind group of kids into the more hardened, cutthroat group of people that they become. And I can't tell you how excited I am to continue this flashback because oh my goodness, it's so exciting. I love seeing the beginnings of villains. I love seeing characters that are morally gray or that are just outright, doing bad stuff. I love that we have that connection with Sheila as well. So like we know that the Phantom Troop are the ones that killed Kurapika's, slaughtered Kurapika's clan, and now we have this connection, and I'm just so excited to see what he's gonna do with that. And we've already seen the beginnings of the Phantom Troop, and it's so wholesome and beautiful, and now I assume we're going to see them, how far are we gonna take this? Are we actually gonna see their unraveling, and as well as tightening as a group, and see what caused that, and then also see leading up to the Kurapika's clan's slaughter? Like, are we gonna see all of that? I would be so okay if this flashback lasted a really long time. Like, I don't know how many chapters we have left. I don't know if Togashi's plan is to continue to give us this flashback, and once the flashback is over, then he goes back on hiatus, or if we're gonna stop in the middle of the flashback. But regardless of what happens, I would happily take quite a few more chapters of this and really just explore the beginnings of the Phantom Troop before we get back into, everything. This arc has not been my favorite Hunter x Hunter arc, but it has been one that I have enjoyed and that I think has been so much fun, despite being very overwhelming, lots and lots of characters, lots and lots of moving pieces, but it has been really fun, and I'm so excited to see the climax of it someday. But it's definitely not been my favorite, but these new chapters have been so fun, and I've been loving reading them, and I'm excited to talk with y'all about them. So please continue to chat with me. Like I said, I did skip over a lot of the more inner workings, chess pieces moving kind of commentary, so if you want to chat more about that in the comments, we can do so. I would love to hear what your favorite element of these most recent chapters has been. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this channel. If you'd like to keep up with what I'm reading week to week, I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday on the second channel, which is always linked in the description of this video. I'll see you again soon. Bye.